Good evening, everyone. This is Tina Grant. Welcome to my Cuppa A Natter, which I like to call it because I am English. So it is a live chat. I do this every other Monday. I'm an author of 5 books, and I have a new book coming out February the 5th called The Reunion. So I'm excited about that. I'll be talking about that closer to the date. And what I like to do on these Cuppa A Natters is invite fellow authors into my home. And we talk about books and writing and what we're doing and whatever comes to mind. And tonight I have Johnnie Bernhard joining me. How are you, Johnnie?
I'm wonderful. And we have planned this forever. So it's great that this day finally arrived. Thank you for having me.
It is my pleasure to have you. I've been dying to talk to you in person. I love your book. We're going to talk about your book. This one right here, Sisters of the Undertow. But before we get started on the book, I wanted to just have you give us a little introduction about Johnnie, where she lives, her hobbies, whatever comes to mind, your family life, just so we get a little background on you before we start talking about.
Thank you for your interest. I'm happy to fill you in. I'm originally from Houston, Texas. I've been married 37 years. You kind of lose count after 20.
You do.
Been fortunate to be married to the love of my life. I have 2 children. My son is an engineer. He lives in Houston. My daughter lives in County Armagh, Ireland, which is far from Belfast, so it's Northern Ireland. Mm-hmm. And I have 2 grandchildren, Frida Mae Hughes and Ty. And they live in Northern Ireland. And yes, I've been many times. I love Ireland. I love the culture, the food, the people.
It's beautiful. It is.
What's the crack? These are the people that are so gifted in chat that you sit down with a cup of tea.
Mm-hmm. Cup of tea.
Someone says, "What's the crack?" And you're still talking till 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. Beautiful
people. They love the chit chat. They do. The Irish love it. When was the last time you went back to Ireland?
Probably last summer. COVID.
Yeah. Hello.
Heartbreak for people all around the world. So I had the Irish family here in the States for Christmas. I had my son and his family come. We had they were here almost 3 weeks. I'm so thankful for the 3 weeks. And then, so counting today, I haven't seen my Irish family for 13 months. So we're hopeful that we could get the vaccine in February and that I could be there this summer. I'm praying for that.
I have a sister in England, and she normally comes out here to the US every September. So we didn't see her last year. So we're hoping that, she makes it out this September, because by then it'll be 2 years for us. So it's tough on families. It really is. I meant to tell you before we went live, if you look to the top of your screen on the right, it says comments. If you click on that, you can see everyone that's here. Do you see it? You see comments?
Let me get the glasses. Stay with me.
I told you before. You see where it says comments?
I see them. Hello. Oh, we got a good crowd. Hello.
And see who's here. So we've got Darlene and Leisha, B, Karen, Nancy. They all want to hear about your books, Johnnie. Leisha says Ireland is a place I would love to visit. I totally agree. So we're going to talk about your book, this one right here, Sisters of the Undertow. Before we get started, now, is this your debut novel?
No, this is my 3rd novel. For those of you interested in Ireland and the family there, my first novel is a historical fiction about an Irish family leaving Ireland in the 19th century during the potato famine and coming to America. It's the story of 5 generations, beginning with the little Irish girl that came to America.
And what's the name of it?
A Good Girl is the name of that novel. That's quite a common saying in Ireland. You know, well, they'll say, when you do something well as a woman, they'll say, good girl. Like
Yes,
we would say, terrific, or
do.
absolutely.
That's
so, yeah, that sweet little Irish girl that braved a famine, seas, traveling in a coffin ship. Yes, ma'am. That is A Good Girl, my first novel.
And when did that come out?
2017.
2017. And then you had another one after that.
That novel is called How We Came to Be. And that particular novel is about a woman that's 50. She finds herself divorced, and in the loneliness of being divorced, she hides away from the world because she's afraid to date. By a change of events, she ends up raising a teenage niece, and it's how the divorced woman at 50 enters the dating world again, and how this teenager begins dating. So it's 2 female perspectives on the dating scene. I love that book. I find it's uplifting for women that have been through a divorce and are maybe middle-aged and hoping to find love again. And then across the street from these 2 women is a widow who ends up becoming like a mother figure to both of them. She's just a wise woman from Budapest, Hungary. Leona, I know. I always have an immigrant in the book, usually from Europe, because I want people in our country to remember we're all immigrants.
That's right.
America is a melting pot.
Yeah.
I'm Irish, French, and German. We all come from somewhere else. And we owe it to our brave ancestors who put up with famine, racism, hard work. People used to be really, really poor to begin a new life in this country. And so that's in each novel. And then in Sisters on the Undertow, I take you to Denmark, to Copenhagen, and my immigrant is from Syria. So it's just my way of paying respect to the immigrants that came to this country and built America.
I like that. I do. I think that's beautiful. With the Sisters of the Undertow, all your books are standalones, correct? They're not series, they're all standalones. Are they based on any experiences in your life? I mean, what inspired, like, for example, what inspired this one? Let's talk about this one, your latest one. What inspired this one?
Well, Tina, I learned a life lesson when the first novel came out, A Good Girl. I didn't know about marketing on social media. I was just a newbie, a green. But I was very fortunate that librarians in states around me just were so kind and say, come on, we have an author program, come on and talk. So I went one cold and rainy January day to do a writer's talk at a library in a metropolitan area near a VA hospital. And I walked in, and my audience were the homeless.
Oh, wow.
They are the homeless vets, receive services at the VA hospital, then come to the library to use the Wi-Fi and the computers. And I began doing research and talking to librarians. This is the state of libraries today in large metropolitan areas. They are the daycare of the homeless, the lonely, the disenfranchised, because there's flushing toilets, a place to wash your hands. Right. It's a heated, temperature controlled building, and the Wi-Fi and computer use. So in writing Sisters of the Undertow, this book that recently came out, the lead character is a librarian.
Right.
And that is my way of saying, thank you, librarians, for doing the heavy work every day so people have a place to get a book. And you know, there are some homeless characters in that novel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little autobiographical. As a writer, I like to listen and pay attention to how people are living their lives
Right.
outside of my bubble. You know, if I'm writing about my bubble, I'm boring. I like to garden. I love to cook. I love my dog, and I love to take walks along the beach with my dog. But the real world is outside of my window, and I'm curious about other people because some of us are great at surviving what life hands us, and some of us aren't. So, sometimes it cripples, and so that's my way of thinking librarian, and that's my way of saying to readers, pay attention to the homeless. They have a story.
I can't remember the top of my head, but when I was reading the book, I loved how you mentioned books throughout the story of what you have to. What's her name? I'm sorry. Was reading at the time, because it's been a few months. Kim, but it's been a few months since I read the book. But you just, triggered a memory of the book, how you spoke about the books you was reading, and it brought back memories for me. Oh, I remember that book. And I love the books she chose. She has great taste in books, by the way.
Yes, she does. Well, that's very personal because those were some of my favorite books throughout the years. And gosh, Tina, aren't we lucky? Aren't we lucky to be able to read whatever we want and then to be able to write? So many fantastic books out there. But yes, Kim, the lead character, is a librarian. Of course, she loves to read. And that love of reading came when she was a child. Kim's younger sister was born very premature, and she has physical and learning disabilities that take up so much time from the mother. And in helping this younger daughter get a fair start in life, Kim is often left out of the picture. So Kim adapts to that by becoming an avid reader. Reading for children, it can take us on an adventure, also an escape from the reality we live in. So I want to point out that in writing these two sisters that are yin and yang, complete opposites, they're not only how they look and think, but really in their attitudes, that there's no blame here. I'm not out to shame the mother or Kim or the younger sister. That's not my point as an author. I'm presenting these people to you in what they're dealing with, hoping you will have some empathy for the mother who has miscarriage after miscarriage after miscarriage and finally delivers a healthy child. And then the heartbreak of having a special needs child. And the backstory to this mother comes from a woman I know in my community, and she knows this about the book. This beautiful woman I know in her early 70s now. She was married. Her two older daughters, well, they're professionals now. One's a lawyer, one heads up a think tank out of Washington, D.C., brilliant young women in their 40s. But her third daughter was born with special needs. Her husband divorced her. He could not handle it. So here is this woman, and at the time, she's a full-time school teacher dealing with a special needs newborn, plus two daughters in elementary school, and the man leaves. So there
Wow.
goes that major income,
Mm-hmm.
and he quickly marries a friend of hers. This is all a true story. Now, the hero of this story, we're going to fast forward.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what gave me the idea about writing Sisters of the Undertow, all these things, the homeless, the librarian. 3 years ago, her husband died. She gave the wake in her home.
Really?
That is a generous, gracious, perfect human being she is. And she invited his second wife in. I went to the funeral.
Was he in the children's lives after he moved out? She was
In and out,
but he
in
wasn't
and
like
out.
constantly in there.
But kudos, the second wife, she is still to this day and was in the past very good to the special needs daughter. Very good.
Very
Buying
good.
clothes for her, buying her special treats, taking her out somewhere. And I went to that funeral that day, and I'm sitting in the back and I'm watching this family, this blended family, and these two women burying a man they had both been married to.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed by the maturity, the support, because I'm thinking, oh no, not me. Mm-mm. I don't think I'm that grown up. So obviously, the first wife, the woman I patterned after in the novel, is a hero to me. Just a fantastic woman. And I went to the wake, and her older daughters were there, and the special needs daughter, who is in her late 30s now with a pacemaker. And think about that, Tina. Here's a woman in her 70s taking care of this adult daughter with a pacemaker. I mean, and never the love between those two. It is amazing. How could I not be inspired to write a book about this kind of love?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the special needs daughter, is that also based on your character in your book?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me say hello to a few more people. And see, if you have any questions for Johnnie, feel free to post them, and I'll put them on the screen for her. B is saying, I think that's great when readers can connect with the characters. We can feel the emotions. Here it is. I'll put it up. You can read it right here. Right there. That's from B. She has a special needs son. She can relate to the book.
Yes, B. And B, I tried so hard as an author, and I talked to a lot of different women, women with special needs children, maybe a child that was diagnosed with childhood leukemia, anybody who would share their story. And all these women were saying, that child needed me so much, and it took me away from the other children, and the guilt associated with that, and you're just stretched. And then you have a spouse that has needs. You can't even think about your own needs as a woman.
Your book, I mean, just with the audience. Yeah. Here's another one. Crystal. Where is she? She was right here. She is. She also has a daughter with special needs. So just our audience here, you're reaching out, and they can relate to this book.
I am just absolutely fascinated, and thank you everyone for responding and being so open with what's going on in your own home. I am so fascinated by the many roles that women play in their lives. There's no guarantee. There's very few Cinderella stories out there. And I'm not interested in the Cinderella story. my heroines, the women I love and want to write about, those are the women that are still standing up
There you
by
go.
what life has given them, that they're still loving and kind, just good human beings.
Yeah. And here's a good question from Alicia. Do your book characters talk to you? And if they do, have you had to change something in the story while writing it?
There's my friend there, and she's been a great supporter.
She's
Thank
great.
you.
She's great.
Yes, they do. There are times that I'm in the middle of a manuscript and I may go to bed that night or whatever. And I'm dreaming, and that's the subconscious talking to us. And I'm thinking, no, that's not right. I get up and go to my computer and I start working. Yes, those characters, and and I think all writers, sure, Tina, yourself as well can speak to that. That's the beauty of writing, and it's like a gift you're given, and you want to be so true to the story you're telling that you're compelled to not let it be written in stone. You got to have an eraser, because the process in art in creating changes constantly.
It does. I ask this a lot. Do you plot, or are you a prankster when you write? Do you plot your stories out, or do you just let it take its path?
I don't. Tina, what I do is I do character sketches. I get an idea for a story, and so I think the librarian, okay, and I start writing her out, what she looks like, what year she was born, uh, who she dated, what kind of man she'd be attracted to, what are her gifts, what are her handicaps,
Okay.
just like all of us.
Right. You have a whole list. You have a whole list.
Oh, absolutely, because you want to flesh that character out just like we are.
Right.
We're not all perfect. We got good sides, bad sides, bad boyfriends, good boyfriends. All of this contributes to who we become as women. And so that's how I write out the characters. I might have an idea for a beginning. I usually have the ending, but that middle, whoo.
Yeah, let it go.
That's the hard part.
Yeah. Here's another question for you. What do you do to celebrate the launch of your books, or when you write end? Do you take breaks in between books? There's a couple of questions there.
It is. Thank you, B. Well, how do I celebrate a launch book? I'm grateful. I'm grateful for people like Tina and readers, because it's not just about me. I have to have a support team, because I can write a book. If nobody buys it, I can't write any more books. So, what Tina does, giving of her time freely, and readers that are interested, that gets me going. That's my celebration. Of course, I will have a couple of glasses of wine and some really good food, great dessert. Do you take a break between books? I do for a while, and then B, to be very honest, I start feeling guilty. I feel like if I break too long, something's going to leave me. I won't be able to write anymore. I'll get off. Tina, you understand.
It's a drive. And for me, I also put myself in the reader's place. When I like an author, I'm anxious for the next book and the next book and the next book. And I kind of put myself in the reader's position. And The Reunions, which is my next book, is coming out February the 5th. But I've already started Jill, which is my next book on another series. And I'm on like chapter 8 of that. So I'm constantly, for me also, I have to write. If I'm not writing, I just don't feel complete. I need to write.
we are kindred spirits in that,
Mhm.
and I respect that. Um, and I have a friend that's a painter, and he says the same thing. I start feeling guilty. I don't feel right with the world. I have a friend that's a songwriter. She says the same thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, we're lucky.
Yeah. Are you working on something right now?
I am. I mean, I am. This, I write about women and different stages of their lives. So this character, Hannah, 73, and she's just buried the love of her life.
Oh.
She was married to an older man. Oh my God, he takes her to Paris on the honeymoon. I talk about that a lot. I I had a ball with that honeymoon in Paris.
Have you
That
been to
was
Paris?
joyful.
Have you been to Paris?
I have.
Okay.
I have.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. I've been a couple of times.
Yes, it is.
Lisa, not Lisa. Raina is asking the question that we had talked about before we went live. So here you go. What do you want your readers to take away from your books?
Empathy for others. To gosh, that's everything. If you can read what I'm writing and it makes you feel and it makes you think, I've done my job.
There you go.
I'm happy.
hmm There you go. And how long does it normally take you to? Do you like set yourself a goal every day for writing? Do you write every day? And do you have a time frame for a book when you're writing?
Tina, when I was writing the first novel, I think because it was very autobiographical, and my father had died in August, uh, so that was the ending to my mom and dad, and anyone that has lost both their parents. It, I was 50. I felt like an orphan, and I don't know if that's selfish or
I
silly,
I
but
relate.
you realize even at 50, no one will ever love you. I hope you're this fortunate, like your mother and your father.
That's true.
If you're that
I
fortunate,
was, yeah, I was 46 when my dad passed, and it's like, are you supposed to be around for another 20 years? What's this all about? Yeah. hmm
and I was so that was in August, and my daughter, my only daughter,
hmm
uh, got married in Crossmaglen, Ireland, September 19th. So emotionally, now I love my son-in-law and he's a good man, but it was a it was a huge loss, and realizing this is where I am in life. My parents are both gone. My
hmm
daughter is married. It was my first child to marry. So I was in a new role as a woman. And I had been to Ireland to meet the family before, loved these folks. So I thought, how can I honor everyone? And my dad and I had a project years ago, a genealogy project way before all the ancestry.com, and it was something we enjoyed together, right? I mean, it was really going to small towns and looking up records, and talking to a great aunt to get the story. And I had done all this research, but I never did anything with it. So I took it,
hmm
and there was a Grandma Chapman from Ireland, and I had Grandma Chapman leave during the potato famine, get on a coffin ship. And guys, that's what they called it in the 19th
Yeah.
century, a coffin ship. Why?
hmm
Because very few people survived the journey from Ireland to New York. A coffin ship. They just threw them overboard.
Wow.
They died from cholera, lack of food, unsanitary conditions. It was horrific. And so I wrote that story, um, and I was on fire. I was on fire from grieving from my dad,
Right.
saying goodbye to my daughter, and she's a
That's good.
woman now.
Yeah.
First. So I was on fire, and I was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and there were, I call them gifted days, that my husband would come home at 5 and I'm still, in my pajamas. I did eat, I drank a lot of coffee, and he said, "Really, Johnny? What? You're going to kill yourself." But I was just crazy, it, I wanted to get that book out.
I
Anyway,
haven't
so
read it,
I
but
worked really hard on the first novel. I'm a little bit easier to myself and a lot older than I was. So, um, yeah, if today when I write, if I have a day where I write a good paragraph and it took me 2 hours and it's a good paragraph, I'm happy.
you're
I'm
good.
happy.
You're good.
It might be a day that I get 5 pages. I,
Right.
I I'm becoming more comfortable with
That's
the
good.
process.
That's excellent. Now, has your daughter read your books?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And does she know that the first one is based on
Oh
you?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when before that book was published,
Mm-hmm.
I sent her electronic copy, my husband read it, my son, and I told them, if I embarrass you in any way, you have to tell me and I'm going to set it aside.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I meant it, because they're more important to me than the book.
Exactly. And that's with my books. The three of them are all based on my life, but it's also my sisters are in there. And I do bring up things of their lives. But before I printed them, I said, look, I want to put this in the book for this reason. Is it okay? Because in the first book, one of my sisters and I, we were support systems. So I needed her side of the story in the book because we supported each other with the troubles we were going through. And she was okay with it. She was fine with it. But I didn't need to make sure I was okay.
Yeah, and you know what? They respected you for that, Tina.
Oh,
Just as my family said to me, "Go, mom, go." And some of the people I wrote about, thinly disguised relatives, my son said, "Mom, you made them look like Disney characters in the
oh, there you
book."
go. There
So,
you go.
there were a lot of hugs and tears on with that process, and I'm grateful for them. They've been good to me about this whole writing thing. But that was probably the most autobiographical book, was the first
Yeah, I
one, for
haven't read the
sure.
first one, but I definitely will pick it up. And I love the cover of the second one. The second one,
How
what's
We
it
Came
called?
to Be,
Yes, it reminds me of what's that
Dick
kids
and
book?
Jane.
There we go, Dick and Jane. It does.
And that's exactly, that cover was done by a painter from Texas, Nancy, I think it's Nancy Parsons. She has a website. She does beautiful watercolors. And we were talking about it. I said, look, this book is about a woman at 50 learning to love again. It's about an 18-year-old girl learning to love the first time. And it's about an 80-year-old widow learning to embrace a new family. So it was all about learning. So I said, like the
Dick
Dick
and
and
Jane.
Jane,
It's
there should
perfect.
be this innocence there.
It's perfect. It is. And going back to the loss of our parents, we had a few comments I just want to pop up. Here's one right here. She says, I lost my mom 7 years ago, and I totally get how you felt. I still miss her every day. Cherish your mother while she is still with you. Very true. You never know about
I'm
tomorrow.
sorry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry for your loss, Cindy. It's
Mhm.
a terrible thing to
It
tell our
is. It
parents
is. And here's
goodbye.
one. Leisha, too. While Joe and I had that feeling, we lost our dad in 2005. We lost our mom in 2019. I felt like an orphan. We lost them. Yeah. And it's like a void that's never going to be replaced. That void
Yeah,
will never get filled. And
yeah.
it's tough. It is. No matter how long, how much time goes by. How much time goes by. Every day I think of my parents. Every single day. You know.
Well, I think and I wish this for all of you grieving for a loved one. You know, in the beginning, we're in all those terrible stages of grief, the anger, you know, don't even want to acknowledge it. Just terrible sorrow. But you know what? The day comes in that process where you think about your mom and your dad and you laugh because you're remembering something funny. And that means you're getting better.
That's true.
And that means that you were fortunate to have a person like that in your life. Because, you know, there's kids out there that don't have that. So I wish you that you get to that point. I was thinking about my dad. My dad made up words. So we called him the wordsmith. And when I was younger, I would say, Dad, that's not a word. He would say, yes, it is. You just don't know it. Go look it up in the dictionary.
Yeah.
Oh, my dad was and a friendly man. You know, he'd make friends with people in elevators. He would have loved going to Ireland. He wasn't a perfect man, but there was a warmth to him, and he had a real love for other people. One of the things, two things I got from my dad that I've put in my novels and have taught me out as an adult. My dad taught me how to work. He was a hard worker.
Yeah.
And he never complained about providing for his family.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes worked 7 days a week. The second thing my dad taught me, and my dad was from Texas, and, you know, he was from a generation where people didn't always think before he spoke. I never heard my dad say a racial slur in my life. Never. My mother didn't either. That wasn't said in our home.
That's good.
My dad used to say, if you don't have anything nice to say,
don't say it.
Don't say anything at all.
Don't say it. There you go. Smart man. Smart man. There's one thing my father always told me is there's no such word as can't.
Yes.
He would never hear that. He never would let us say that word. There's no such word as can't. And my mother, I quoted in my latest book, is she always used to say to me, never underestimate the power of a cup of tea.
Yes. Comfort at the end of the day. That's very Irish.
Oh, yeah, and English, too. And I've been over here since 1980 or 79. And I still have to have my cup of tea every single day. I go through withdrawals if I don't have a cuppa. I really do. First thing I do when I come home, I kick off my shoes and make myself a cup of tea. I do it every day. Oh yeah, it's true. It's very powerful. I'm going to scroll down real quick. I do want to read the description of the Sisters of the Undertow. There was one I wanted to highlight. Now it's gone. Okay. If it's okay with you, Johnnie, I do want to read the description of your latest book. This one right here. I'm going to read it off the phone, which I had all set up. Now, the book you're working on now, do you have a release date for it of any kind?
No, I've just sent it out, hoping a publisher will pick it up. So it may be another year. I have to be hopeful.
Oh, you're not going to go with the same publisher? You're going to go with a different one?
I sent it. I hope they do. You know, I hope he loves the story. Dr. Fuller, I'm with the University Press. I love him. He's a good man, you know, and I've worked hard on the other books. Nothing's a given.
But have they done all three of yours? They've done all three? Oh, yeah. Then. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll cross my fingers for you.
I love an optimist. I'm hopeful. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm going to read the description. This is the Sisters of the Undertow. The latest one. Now, when did this come out?
End of February 2020. Right when COVID began.
Early this year. Okay. All right. And I have read this book, and I highly recommend it. I loved it. It's been a few months since I have read it. I wanted to read it before we spoke, but it's very engaging. I was engaged right away. And being a sister, I could relate. So I highly recommend this book. So I'm going to read the description. And I also have a review on my website, tinahogangrant.com. Have you seen the review? It's on my website.
Thank you.
But you can go to the website too and read my review there. Okay, sisters Kim and Kathy Hodges are born 16 months apart in a middle-class existence parented by Linda and David Hodges of Houston, Texas. The happy couple welcomes their lucky daughter, Kim, who is physically and mentally advanced. Following several miscarriages, Linda delivers unlucky Kathy at 29 weeks, ensuring a life of cognitive and physical disabilities. Kathy enters public school as a special education student, while Kim is recognized as gifted. Both sisters face life and death decisions as Houston is caught in the rip current of Hurricane Harvey. Kim learns the gracious nature of luck, while Kathy continues to make her own luck, surviving Hurricane Harvey, as she has survived all undertows with the eternal courage of the resolute. Sisters of the Undertow examines the connotations of lucky and unlucky, the complexities of sibling rivalry, and the hand fate deliveries without reason. Very intriguing. Did you have any say on the cover?
It was designed by Lisa Treeman, who has worked at university presses throughout the country. I think she was at the University of Texas, University of New Mexico. She's a brilliant graphic artist. She sent me a version of it, and we just talked about it. But I wanted to defer more to her. She's the expert. I'm not a graphic artist, and I thought she did a beautiful, beautiful job. And Tina, I don't know if you could see on your cover, it has the blurred edges on it, like a Polaroid camera. Do y'all remember the Polaroid cameras?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
That you had to blow on it and the image will appear.
That's what this
because
is.
Sisters, they're little girls in the 70s. They're in college or begin a career in the early 80s. So the Polaroid cameras would have been their time. And I do a lot of things in the novel to talk about the music or the clothes from the 70s and the early 80s, which is fun.
Yeah, you put the reader in the era. I felt like I was in the 70s, the 80s. And then, of course, like I said, the books too will bring you back there too, because they were books I read during that era. So it totally took me back to that time. So just even the books alone that you picked were popular back then.
Yes.
So, and being like, look at this. This is great. No, wait. That's amazing description, but this one right here. Someone just bought your book.
Thank you. Thank you.
Crystal. And here's another Cuppa lover. Raina, I totally believe in the power of a cup of tea. I can't live without it. I am a tea fan. I am. There was another question here. Alicia has read your book. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you give us any insights on what you're writing on now? You mentioned that you were going to Paris in the book, or not you, but the characters.
Yes. So I'm gonna issue to Hannah, and she's just buried the love of her life. This is a beautiful love story between Hannah, a girl that grows up in a humble environment in a small town out in West Texas where there's lots of ranches. And so she's used to the great outdoors, worked hard all her life, hardworking mom and dad that had a small farm, working farm. And she marries a man 14 years older than her. And of course, it's a small town. Everybody's gossiping. She must be pregnant, blah, blah, blah. She's after his money. She's the reason why the first wife left, all the horror. And it was really a beautiful marriage, very passionate between Hannah and her husband. Now, Hannah at 73, she's been out on their ranch, 300 acres outside of town, and it's 100 miles from the Texas-Mexico border. And it's written in present time, and that's a dangerous thing for an older woman to live alone out in the country near the border. So this novel is a little different than my other work. It's a bit more of a thriller. So Hannah goes into town one evening. There's an event at the church. She decides to go that because she's tired of eating alone. They have a little supper and it's fellowship and a good time. She stays longer than she should have. So she's driving back. And if any of you live in rural areas, night is dark. If you live in a city, you forget that night is pitch dark. You're used to artificial lighting where you see road signs and everything. So here's a 73-year-old widow. She's grieving for her husband. She's trying to be brave and get herself back out there. And she's driving back late at night. And she hears a dog barking out in the middle of nowhere. She's afraid she's going to hit the dog, so she slows down. And then her headlights shine on a body in a ditch on the side of the road.
Oh boy.
Okay. Hannah gets out of the truck with her flashlight and she walks slowly. And it's the body of a 14-year-old girl, semi-conscious, that is a victim of human trafficking.
Oh.
Now, I'm not going to tell you the rest.
No.
But Hannah at 73 kicks some butt.
Oh, right, Hannah.
That little girl.
Do you have what's the title of the book? Do you have a title for the book?
Hannah and Arela.
Hannah
so
and
Arela is the name of the little girl. So we're giving a stage in a woman's life at 73. She's a widow. And a lot of women who become widows think their lives are over. I'm 73 years old. My husband's gone. My son and my daughter-in-law have their own life. What is my purpose on this earth? That purpose comes when she helps the 14-year-old victim of human trafficking. And so I titled the book after the two women. Hannah, who's given a second chance at life, and the 14-year-old girl who's also given a second chance of life. And there's all kinds of crazy characters in between. Don't want to give it away. I will tell you, it's not graphic violence. I don't want to make anyone sick or stomach. We all know there are predators out there and human trafficking is horrifying. But in writing this and doing the research, talked to a lot of people, talked to a guy that retired Border Patrol to try to get an idea of what he saw out there working the job. Talked to a guy that was in DEA, drug enforcement agent. What he saw working in the field, widow women to try to understand how they feel in life, at a certain age, being alone. Watched a lot of documentaries on human trafficking. I will tell you, emotionally, this is one of the hardest books to write. For me, it was. A Good Girl was very emotional because there's the potato famine, and I did research on that. But this book, there were times that I was writing, and I got to get in the head of this 14-year-old girl. And I worked a lot with this beautiful woman, Pamela Labata. Pamela is originally from Colombia. South America. She runs a clinic in Houston for victims of human trafficking. And she shared a lot of stories with me. What is happening in human trafficking? There's a trend now in that this network is just huge, and these people are so well organized. I call them monsters. These monsters are so well organized. Their clients are wealthy men that are coming into a big city for like the Super Bowl, the NBA playoffs. They get into town a week before the event. They want to party for a week. Okay. Mm-hmm. They get in touch with this underbelly world that can get them young girls. Okay. That's what's going on. It's sick.
It's sick.
So these young girls, they're totally innocent. Mm-hmm. One little girl, this is a true story. This happened in Houston. Before COVID, she was coming out of a movie theater with her girlfriend, waiting at the front of the movie theater for the mom and dad to pick them up.
And they grabbed them?
2 guys grab them, throw them in the back of a minivan.
How did they get away? Did they escape?
Did not get away. They're missing. Those girls are missing. Ladies, and I don't know if we have any gentlemen, I apologize. It is so prolific as a crime that you cannot go into a public restroom anywhere without seeing on the back of the stall, if you are a victim of human trafficking, call this 1-800 number. And in doing my research, Houston, I-10 is an interstate that runs through Houston. It goes all the way to San Diego to Florida. Mm-hmm. It's the drug corridor. It is the human trafficking corridor. Houston is one of the hottest cities for human trafficking. Why? It has 2 international airports. I think there's 90 different languages spoken there. It's not that far from Mexico. It's on the I-10 corridor. This is the reality.
Wow.
So my whole story is not about the brutality of this crime. The story is more about the human connection between 2 women from 2 different worlds that need each other.
Right. And you're also bringing awareness to this human trafficking.
I'm hoping, I've had a lot of people help me with the book, Pamela Labata and her nonprofit in Houston. I work with a Mexican national. He's from Mexico City. Wrote a book about the cartel and that involved a 13-year-old boy. It's fiction. And because I was so desperate as a white woman to make sure I wrote this correctly, to make sure that I painted this little Mexican girl authentically. I didn't want to look like a phony. And so he beat me up pretty good in the manuscript, but oh my God, I'm so thankful because I learned a lot. Right. I'm thankful. We caught a lot of stuff, and we would say, Johnnie, no, this would never happen in that culture.
You wanted that. You needed that for the book.
I did. I'm very, very thankful.
Yeah, you needed that.
So if it gets published, I'm praying, I'm hopeful. I try not to take anything for granted. Of course, I'm going to name these wonderful people that shared these stories and helped me.
Well, if it does get published, you got to let me know so we can have you back.
I will. I will.
Talk
And
about
I'm
that.
looking forward to reading your book in February.
Oh,
So,
thank you so much.
yeah.
We are running out of time. It is almost 6 o'clock, but I do want
That
to.
was a quick hour. What happened?
It goes by so quick. It does. It does. But you are doing a giveaway, so we do have
I
to
am.
leave some time for that. I'm going to just hand it over to you, and you can let the readers know what the giveaway is. So I'm going to hand it over to you real quick. You can do that.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you, readers, for staying with me this evening. Your time and your interest is a gift to me. My giveaway for this evening is the audiobook of Sisters of the Undertow. And this book is narrated by an Emmy Award-winning voice talent. Her name is Teresa Bakken, Bakken. It was a wonderful experience working with her. She's so talented and did a terrific job because, I have little girls in this and middle-aged women. I have some men, some good boyfriends, some bad boyfriends, all kinds of people. There's Spanish words, American words. I mean, I take it Copenhagen, so there's Danish words. It wasn't an easy book to narrate. She did a beautiful job. But this is how Audible works. So whoever is chosen to receive the audio book, I will send them step-by-step directions and a code for you to go on the Audible website and download the book. Okay? If you don't have the equipment to listen to Audible audiobook, and that's a product of Amazon, it will be sent to you as an email link, and you simply click the link, and there's the book, and you can listen to it.
That's simple. That's simple. Okay. Now, my next question is, you can either pick a winner, doesn't have to be tonight, we can wait a little while, or I can pick a winner for you. It's
I'd like for you to do that, Tina.
You want me to do it? Okay, because we have viewers in both my readers group and on my authors page and on YouTube. So I'm going to go through all of them, and then I'll pick a winner. Oh,
that's wonderful.
Yeah, and then I will announce it in the group tomorrow, and I'll tag you. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, and I'll just need the winner's email address.
Okay, you got it. We'll tag you tomorrow. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Johnnie, you're great. I loved your book. I highly recommend it. And thank you for being with us tonight.
May I add one more thing? For those of you that are interested, and if you're not into audiobooks, the ebook is $1.99 on Amazon.
There you go. Oh, and that reminds me, after we get done, if you want to go back to the video, because it'll be in the group or my author's page, feel free to leave any links in the comments. Where you can get your book, your website, whatever links you want to leave, just leave them in the comments. Okay?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Tina. Good night, everybody. Stay safe. Enjoy reading. It's been, I can't believe an hour went by like that. And I was even hungry. And so
well, stay online.
Tired, but I enjoyed myself.
Stay online for a little bit, and I'll talk to you in the back. Good night, everybody. Thank you.